The fall presidential field moved closer to firming up today in the wake of Tuesday's Republican primaries. And the man who's looking more and more like the GOP nominee went after the man he hopes to oust from the White House.
Thank you to Wisconsin, Maryland, and Washington, D.C. We won them all.
Mitt Romney's trifecta on Tuesday night all but assured he will clinch the Republican nomination. And it shifted his focus ever more toward the fall and President Obama. In Washington, Romney told newspaper editors that the president indulged in distortions when he denounced Republican budget ideas as social Darwinism.
The president came here yesterday and railed against arguments no one is making and criticized policies no one is proposing. It's one of his favorite strategies, setting up straw men to distract us from his record. And while I understand the president doesn't want to run on his record, he can't run from his record either. With all the challenges the nation faces, this is not the time for President Obama's hide-and-seek campaign.
The president had singled out Romney by name for supporting what he called a prescription for decline.
One of my potential opponents, Governor Romney, has said that he hoped a similar version of this plan from last year would be introduced as a bill on day one of his presidency.
But Romney charged today it's Mr. Obama who has taken an economy in trouble and made it even worse.
President Obama's answer to our economic crisis was more spending, more debt, and larger government. No president has ever run a $1 trillion deficit. The new normal the president would have us embrace is $1 trillion deficits and 8% unemployment.
The Republican frontrunner aimed to stay on the attack against the incumbent, hoping his latest wins would finally put the primary season behind him. A look at the NewsHour's Vote 2012 Map Center shows that in Wisconsin, Romney dominated the city of Milwaukee and surrounding suburbs, helping him win the Badger State 44% to Rick Santorum's 37%. In Maryland, he defeated Santorum 49-29, and he cruised to victory in the District of Columbia, where Santorum wasn't on the ballot. With Romney's momentum building, pressure mounted on Santorum. Campaigning in his home state of Pennsylvania today, the former senator vowed to press on.
One of the Romney people said, all the significant people have already spoken in the Republican Party. Well, we'll let the other half of the Republican Party, starting here in Pennsylvania, to go out in 3 weeks and during this period of time, grab a yard sign, take a bumper sticker, spread the word, and you can reset this election and give us the best chance, not just to win, but to govern conservatively in this country. Thank you very much.
Even so, the delegate math for Santorum is daunting. It takes 1,144 delegates to win the nomination. And according to the latest count by the Associated Press, Romney earned 86 delegates from yesterday's primary wins, bringing his total to 658. Santorum took away 9 delegates. His total is now 281. Newt Gingrich and Ron Paul did not win any delegates Tuesday. They remain at 135 and 51, respectively. Santorum has acknowledged that Pennsylvania is a must-win for his flagging campaign. From there, he hopes to pick up delegates in several southern primaries, including Texas in May. As these campaigns look down the road, what are the lessons learned so far, and is a fall election strategy shaping up? For more, we turn to Dante Chinny. He's director of Patchwork Nation, a reporting collaboration with the NewsHour and others that examines economic, social, and political trends. And NewsHour political editor Christina Bellantoni. It's great to have you both with us. So, Dante, you've been looking at these results. What do you see there? What do you see that tells you how Mitt Romney pulled this off in these 3 contests, especially Wisconsin?
I think we've been waiting for a while with Romney to see if there's a tipping point where he starts winning some of these voters he hasn't won. Because he's had a hard time with people on the lower end of the income scale. He's had a hard time with cultural conservatives. And the way we break down the state of Wisconsin, for example, with Patchwork Nation, we have these a lot of these small town counties called service worker centers. Those have gone heavily for Santorum, even in states he's lost. He lost Illinois, but he won those counties by 9%. He won them last night, but only by 2%. So they're starting to, they look like they're starting to turn more toward Romney now.
So you're seeing a distinct improvement in Romney's performance.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's. I think it's maybe coming to terms in some of these places. I don't know if he's winning these voters outright, but they're deciding that it's going to be Romney, and they're falling in line.
So, Christina, before we talk about the general election and more about Romney, what about Santorum? We just heard him. It doesn't sound like he's going away anytime soon.
No, he's not going away. And even he's couching terms a little bit. He may not even be able to win his home state of Pennsylvania. You know, don't forget he lost his Senate seat there in 2006 by a large margin. And even if he does, you're still not talking about a whole lot of delegates. Those numbers that we just showed on the screen really demonstrate how mathematically difficult it becomes for Santorum here. So then he keeps talking about Texas at the end of May. That's another state. It's still proportional the way they award these delegates, which is how Romney's been able to start to amass this big lead as it is. So what you're hearing from Santorum is a little bit of a shift in his language. He's picked a very specific thing to go after Romney with, and that's the health care issue. He's saying we need someone with a big difference with President Obama on health care and not somebody with a small difference with President Obama. That's very different than some of the nastier language you heard a few weeks ago. So I think perhaps he's starting to look at this and think about his own future within the party, making his message heard there. And he's also not spending very much money. Romney has outspent him at every place they've campaigned so far. And so he's able to go out there and campaign in a fairly affordable way.
And Christina, how does Romney's strategy change now? I mean, can he just afford to ignore Santorum?
I think that the campaign, they're not telling us exactly what they want to do, but when you look at some of the moves they've made a very direct pivot to President Obama and to ignoring Santorum. From not mentioning him just a few days ago, they were still attacking Santorum in press releases, calling him Rick Spentorum for his record on earmarks when he was in Congress. They've gone completely away from that, and they're looking at Obama. And they're also starting to look at, well, okay, Pennsylvania, it's 3 weeks away. We have time to build up a campaign there, and we have the advantage that it's a battleground state. That's one reason he spent so much time in Wisconsin. The campaign was very confident there, but they knew that that's a swing state they're going to need to look at in the general.
Now, Dante, back to you. In terms of Romney and what he needs to do going forward, what do you see in yesterday's results that show what his challenge is?
I mean, Romney's everywhere he's gone so far in the primaries, he's done very well in wealthy suburban areas and cities, right? Those have been his core constituencies, and he held them again in Wisconsin, and he built on them, which is great. What we don't know yet going forward is he's really going to be battling Obama. These big cities and wealthy suburbs, that was Obama's strong. Those were Obama's strongest areas. The wealthy suburbs, what we call the moneyed burbs and Patchwork Nation, Obama won them by 12 percentage points in 2008. You know, John Kerry won them by only 1 percentage point in 2004. Al Gore by 3 percentage points in 2000. So this was huge for him. So they're going to be fighting over this same turf. And Romney has shown that he can win the Republican voters there. I think the challenge he's going to face is he needs to pivot to the general election because he needs to start, he's winning those voters there, but he's winning Republicans there. To win independents there, he's going to have to, you know, nobody wants to talk about shaking the Etch-a-Sketch or whatever, but he's going to need to turn his campaign a little bit and start talking more about moderate, independent issues for independent voters, things like that. He's got to start making that turn. And I would do it sooner the better for him.
Sooner. And what about organization, Christina, and the kind of ground operation? I mean, let's talk about the general election. What do you know in brief that the Obama campaign and that the Romney campaign have on the ground?
So the Obama people, today is actually the 1-year anniversary of when he launched his re-election bid. So that gives you an indication of how long they've been plotting for this. They have campaign offices in every state. In some cases, dozens of campaign offices in those states, the states that they're looking at expanding the map. You know, North Carolina is a strong one for them, Virginia, Nevada, they're looking at these things. And the Romney people are not really able to do that, but because he's doing this new transitioning where he's allowing joint fundraising with the RNC, basically the RNC has offered this to any candidate, you can come in and do joint fundraising with us. That money goes to the RNC and it allows them to start building their state-by-state organization. They're adding staff in Virginia, North Carolina, Florida. They're looking at Hispanic outreach directors in a lot of these states because they really understand that one of Romney's issues, and this is one advantage he has to the long primary, it's revealed he's starting to lose women voters to Obama, and he has a problem with Hispanic voters. So they have time to make a correction there. He's also turning to focus a little bit more on foreign policy.
And this mention of Hispanic voters, women voters, Dante, gets to a piece you wrote for the Washington Post this past weekend where you talk about this practice, frankly, that many of us who cover politics are guilty of.
Myself included. Yeah, myself included. And we talk a lot about women in particular. particular, women, it's a massive part of the electorate. It's half the voting populace, actually a little more. And, you know, look, does Romney have a problem with women? When you look at women as a whole, yeah, he does. But, you know, there are some women that are more conservative than others. And I do think that the big one really is, you know, you talk about Hispanics. This is a really bad habit we have in the media of talking about Hispanics or Latinos. Because the idea that, well, he could bring on Rubio. Rubio would help him as a vice president and help him win Hispanics. You know, Rubio would help him in, Senator Rubio would help him in Florida. But, you know, the idea that that's going to matter to Arizona, Mexico, Colorado, you know, not all Hispanics or Latinos are the same. They have different issues. They come from other parts of the world before they came here.
There are different types of Latino, Hispanic voters. There are many different types of women.
Many different types of men.
Who think differently, and men.
Yes.
And young people, and so on. So finally, Christina, just another word about the Obama camp. How do they see this next phase of the campaign?
Well, they're all doing a little bit of patting themselves on the back, because as the entire Republican primary unfolded over the last 6 months, there were a lot of ups and downs, but they were laser focused on Romney from the very beginning. They looked at him as most likely to win the primary nomination, but also just the person who's their toughest foe. And so they've really been chipping away at his image. His positives have gone remarkably down. That's not just from the primary campaign. That's what the Obama people have been doing. You can expect to see them step up the fundraising for the president, and then also shore up these organizational areas, and you're going to see more ads on TV. They've already stepped that up. You're going to see it even more.
Well, it won't be dull.
No.
And we thank you both, Christina Bellantoni, Dante Cini. Thank you.
Thanks.